So, hello, welcome to my very lovely presentation. I was going to say short, but it's not that short, so I won't say that. Lovely presentation on community organising, which is listening to action, which is sort of the basic premise of community organising. It was a government-funded project started back in 2011 to train 5,000 community organisers over the course of 4 years, so it finishes next year. The idea behind it was to sort of bring communities together, bring individual people together to make the changes that they want to see in the world. Started off as part of the big society, but it has actually evolved to be so much more than that, and it isn't a big society pledge because despite being government funded, the government actually have very little involvement in what we do. Locality is the charity that won the bid with Regenerate, and Regenerate created the RSLM process, which is the training process that we use in our community organising, which is an idea of listening to people, finding out their loves, their concerns, their ideas and their dreams. And then from that we sort of move them to actually making these changes that they want to see. The legacy body, which is the body that is being created out of community organisers trained by Locality and Regenerate, is called COCO, and they are going to be continuing the work that we've done, as well as employing more trainee community organisers to carry on the work over the next, hopefully, many, many years. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my year as a community organiser, essentially. So in my year, it's definitely a trying year. It's a wonderful job. It really does change who you are as a person, but it's definitely a roller coaster. The worst thing I found in my first sort of 3 months or so was explaining what it is I actually do. It really is the worst thing trying to explain to someone, because they assume that you're from the council or from some sort of consulting firm or this, that and the next thing, and they sort of answer your questions and then they sort of kick you out the door. And actually that's not what it's about. We're not leaders, we're not consultants, we are literally just listeners. But we do something called active listening, so I'm going to come back to that slide because, no. My next slide is about active listening. So in order to be effective listeners, you have to listen deeply, and you have to take on everybody's opinion. Everybody's opinion is a valid opinion. You have to challenge what people say in a respectful way, but find out why they're saying something, as opposed to just taking it on board, writing it down and then leaving and never coming back. The RSLM process is about building trust, respect and relationships, so that once you listen to someone, you then go back and listen to them again, find out what it is that they've done, have they thought about what you talked about, and then moving them from that into an action. So I spent my first 3 weeks or so going out, solid door knocking, listened to many people on the doorsteps, had a lot of doors slammed in my face, as you'd expect, but I was also invited in for a lot of cups of tea and had really great conversations with people. Out of that, so many different things have happened, and that's been really amazing. I've also attended a lot of groups in the past year as well, and sort of got to know a lot of people, which has been really amazing as well, because doing things like listening to Transition Town Langport opened me up to a whole new group of people that I wouldn't necessarily have access through door knocking because they work or they are doing other things during the day, so I may not have been able to speak to them. I also did a lot of listening at the Angel Cafe in Langport, which also gave me an opportunity to listen to another different group of people. So it's about trying to access as many different people as you possibly can, because you never know where that person waiting to be motivated is hiding. Yeah. Okay, so next 3 to 6 months sort of all became about the fledgling projects, which was very exciting but very sort of nerve-wracking at the same time. And the first sort of group that I had that were interested in doing a project were based at the Angel, and they wanted to hold a networking event and signposting evening for all of the services in Langport, because there's all these different services that are out there, sort of emotional well-being and benefit surgeries and job clubs and all these things, but they didn't know, nobody knew where they all were when they were happening. So all these people came together and they decided to actually make a booklet, and it all sort of came out of me listening to one person who then decided that actually they were going to do something about it. So it was amazing for me to actually see this first project get off and just go off to an amazing start. It was possibly one of the highlights of my year. But I sort of learned quite quickly from that they're not all quite as easy as that. Another project that sort of came around at that sort of time was a community shop in Brooklyn Road. Those of you who know Langport will know that Hewish Bisbee at this end doesn't have a shop at all in the whole area, and it's about 2,000 people who live up in this area. I mean, it's a lot of people, and there's no shops, you know, so...
There used to be one.
Yes, many moons ago, yes they did. Yes, they did. That was, yeah. So I spoke to her and she said, I'd really love to start a community shop. They've done it in Kingsbury, they've done it in other places, and it would be such a great thing to have here. So I went out listening with her, we knocked some doors, spoke to some people on the streets and sort of said, what do you think? Do you think it would be a great idea? Yes, they all said, but somebody else would have to do it, I'm too busy. We got a lot of that. And that is one of the key things that is why community organisers are out there, is showing people that actually at this stage in the game, if the general public aren't willing to take on some jobs, it's not going to happen. And that is a very sad but true fact of the world we're living in. So knowing that people were sort of saying that they really weren't that interested in getting involved, we decided that we'd then go to the person who owned the building we were looking at, which is where the shop used to be, and speak to him. Couldn't get hold of him in any way, shape or form. So I went to South Somerset District Council, spoke to them. They were very keen and on board, but unfortunately at that stage in the game, the person I had to listen to sort of lost interest and sort of dropped out of it. So that was my first sort of speed bump in the course of a project that sort of made me go, oh, this isn't as easy as I first thought. Speaking too fast, isn't it? But at the same time, I still met a lot of new people. I was still joining new groups, still getting to know lots of different things about the area. I went to Hewish Academy, which is that way, and listened to about 300 students at the academy, and that was absolutely amazing. The sort of responses I was getting from them, completely different from the responses I was getting from grown-ups out in the real world. You know, they wanted cinema and aquarium and new skate park, and the new skate park project is actually something that kind of ran for a little while. Again, it was a group of about, to start with, it was a group of about 30 lads who really wanted to have the skate park torn out and redone. And they'd written to the town council and they sort of started to get the ball rolling themselves, but they were a bit unsure of where to go from there. So I sort of started to try and support them and help them out and keep them motivated. And then gradually, as the winter came and they couldn't skate quite so much, it sort of dropped out. But actually, very recently, I know Caroline would be interested to hear this, a couple of the lads got back in contact with me and said, actually, no, we really want to do this. We're back on the board, we're going to get motivated and we're going to do something. So it's another factor of community organising is you may not motivate that person right then and there, but they will go away and think about what you said, and you may end up hearing that you have motivated them sort of 6 months later, which is still amazing, you know. So, I also had my first meeting with Langport Town Council. I'm be slightly careful what I say. When I was in my 3 to 6 month period, and explained to them what I've been hearing, what people have been saying to me, what, you know, where they wanted the council to step in and where they wanted to do it for themselves. And the reaction I got was very mixed. The sort of lead players in the town council were quite dismissive and sort of felt that actually they tried all of these things already and nothing was going to happen. But I got a lot of positive feedback from some of the other members of the town council, and I did build some really great relationships that way, which has been amazing, and they've really helped to support me in my work throughout the year. And so it's very difficult to affect major change, but the RSLM process focuses on a personal change, so a change in one person can then lead to them making a local change, and if every person has a small personal change that becomes a local change, you end up with a national change, and if a national change happens, you can end up with an international change. It's about intelligently shifting power, so it's about moving power from town councils to the people, so the town councils then become accountable to the people, so that the district council becomes accountable to the people through the town council, and it's about bringing that power back to the voter in its most basic form, in theory. So months 6 to 9, I'm sure you'll all be pleased to hear that I'm getting through this quite quickly. for me, it was massively hitting the wall. It was Christmas, it was stressful, I was feeling really demotivated, lots of doors being slammed in my face, not wanting to go out in the cold and the rain to knock doors in the first place, and it was the hardest time. And if it was the hardest time for me, you can only imagine what it was like for these people that I'm trying to bully into coming out and really changing the place that they live, changing it for the better and making changes that they want, but in the pouring rain and when there's so many other things going on. I found out from this period that the best way to do that is to go back and just build the relationships. If you're feeling demotivated, if you're feeling like you can't go on, you can't start a new project, you can't do it, that's fine. Let it lie, build the relationship, have those conversations, do, paperwork. You're just going to go back to the basics and make sure that you are building that trusting, respectful relationship with the person that you're working with, as opposed to trying to force them out in the pouring rain to go and build a skate park. Sorry. Yeah, no, I've done that. Okay, so coming to the end of my year, it's been about leaving a legacy, as you can see. It's about making sure that the work I have done has not been for no reason. I'm lucky enough to actually live in the place I've been working in. A lot of the community organisers in the programme don't live in the place that they're working in. So when they leave, and that's it. And if they haven't established groups to carry on the work that they're doing, nothing else will happen. I'm very lucky that I do still live here, and if I want to, I can go out and volunteer and carry on doing exactly what I was doing. But I still wanted to make sure that the projects I've been helping with were not going to just fall flat on their face. So at this time, the community shop project wasn't really running. The signposting project was off and doing its own thing completely without me for months. The skate park project had died a death, but one of the projects that I was working with was still sort of finding its feet. And that was for getting a pedestrian crossing on the road along here. It's a very dangerous place. There's thousands of school children cross there every day, and it is an incredibly dangerous place to cross. There's no crossing, there's no pavement, and it's a 30-mile-per-hour road, if not more. So we sort of had a meeting with the town council about a week before I was due to the finish with the Hewish Parish Council. And from that they sort of suggested, well, why don't you do a community speed watch? So now there are a few ladies in Hewish Episcopi who are actually running with that community speed watch idea. They're hoping to get some jackets, get some funding, and actually be able to do it, to sort of raise awareness about speeding and go from there. So I'm still there to support them, but I've taken a massive step backwards, and they are really doing it for themselves, which is great. For me, carrying on volunteering in Langport, it's all about keeping people aware of what they can do, showing them that they can make a difference. It's all up to them now. It's got to be done. Change has got to happen, but nobody else is going to make change for them. And this is actually something that's proving easier than I thought it would be. People are a lot more ready for change than a lot of people give them credit for, and I've taken a few people to the town council meetings, and they've all come out of it saying, I'm going to run for town council, which is amazing. To get people actually interested in running for town council is a huge thing, just to make that little step, just to get people to vote for the town council is difficult enough. So that's been really, really great. And yeah, yes, and keeping the projects going, I'm still here. So if new projects start, I'm here to support, which is amazing, but not everybody has had that luxury. So yes, moving on. Talked about the pedestrian crossing project, which is still going on, which is amazing. If anybody does want to get involved, let me know. I'll hook you up with the ladies that are doing that. What can be done to help? Well, it is about supporting the projects that are happening, making sure that Langport is really becoming a thriving, bustling place at the moment. It's becoming a hub, which is exactly what it has the potential to be, and it really is amazing. Thanks to new businesses coming into the town, and thanks to a general reaffirming of the community feeling in the town, which is really, really great. So at the moment, Langport is a great place to be if you are wanting to make change, and it really is possible. So please, I say, go for it. If you hear about someone wanting to start a project, do anything they like, tell them to go for it. And I am still here volunteering in the community. And I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Well done.
Thank you. I bet that. Oh, it was 20 minutes. Yes.
Did you find that because you had a year
Yeah.
and it was just 1 year, that was a hindrance? Because you probably look back now and think, wow, where did that year go?
Yeah.
And so, but at the beginning it was probably, wow, I've got all this time. So there's a learning curve in that. But did you find that the fact that you were only going to be around for a year in that post, a hindrance when people were saying, you know, when they wanted you to get involved,
Yeah.
and you were trying to motivate them?
Definitely. It is a huge hindrance, particularly since we are also completing an accreditation in community organising, and I was obviously doing the PG Cert in community organising. It's a massive hindrance. We just, you know, we want to be out there 4 or 5 days a week, knocking on doors, finding people, meeting people, and we just can't. There aren't enough hours in the day to do it, and it is very frustrating. But it's not designed, the RSLM process isn't actually designed to only be a year. It's designed to be 10 years, in all honesty. And that is about us having the commitment to then go out and volunteer and carry on and keep it going. And that is obviously a lot more difficult, but I'm hoping once I find my feet in my new job, I will be back out and continuing what I was doing. But yes, it is definitely a hindrance. Yeah.
Sowing a seed.
Yes.
Really, rather.
Yes.
And you're lucky to be able to watch some of those seeds grow.
Yeah.
Because you live, as you say, you live locally. Yeah. I mean, there's.
Yeah, definitely. It's been an amazing year, but yes, it's. The funny thing that I found was that all the way through the year, I was like, oh, I've got ages left. I was in, beginning of March going, oh, I've got ages, it'll be fine, I've got loads of time. And then literally it came to my finish date and I was like, I've got so many things I haven't done. And it's, and that was when it really hit me that actually I could easily have done with another 8 years, 9 years to continue all the things that I wanted to do, because I just enjoying myself so much, Yeah.
Did you find that when you worked with the boys at the skate park, explaining to them that it was their project and not, how did you manage to get them to understand that you were just there, let's say, just there to motivate them and not actually do the action work for them?
In all honesty, I would say I didn't. I don't think I ever really successfully explained that. So much so that, when they decided they did want to do it, they'd come straight back to me asking me to take it on, and that was really hard. It was really, really hard explaining to 15-year-old boys that I wasn't there to do it for them and they had to do it themselves, and I was only working till March, and once I was gone, and it was really stressful. They were actually lucky enough to have a lady came in whose husband was a BMXer who wanted to help out, that she really wanted to get involved in this project and support them to do it. But because their enthusiasm dropped off, she felt that she didn't have the time to just do it on her own. So it's all sort of gone very quiet on that front at the moment. But as I say, hopefully it is coming back up again, which is really exciting. Yeah.
Spring, they're all out there. They all want to be
Yeah,
out there
exactly.
their boards again. I suppose it's providing that support, and when you're a volunteer, sometimes if you're in a group, even if you've got a group of people, everybody's giving up their time. It's whether they give up all their resources, give up all their skills, there's so many other things apart from time, and are willing to actually, like you say, take those actions and actually take them to delivery.
Yes. Yeah, and I think they are particularly struggling with the idea of having to apply for funding, and that sort of ideas just go straight over their head. And I've been trying to steer them towards sort of things like the O2 Think Big project, which is aimed at young people, and it's sort of not quite taking that they have to apply for it themselves, and it's all about them doing it for themselves. And they're the best and worst thing about working with that age group is they think big. And they dream big, and it wasn't, we want a community cinema that shows films we like once a month or so. It was, we want a multiplex, and it was, we want a bowling alley and an aquarium, and
Well, I was going to ask you about that, because I found it quite interesting that you said that the young people said about the cinema, because there is a cinema.
Yes.
Yeah. I run it.
I have, as I said that to them when I actually went in to listen, because at the time I had just gone to a couple of the films down at the cinema, and I was like, oh well,
Yeah.
there is a community cinema in Blackpool. And I'm not sure why that's not being used or not being engaged with by the younger group. I'm, you know, because it would be great, you know, because even if they used that one and then split off and had an under 18 cinema running alongside it, that would be an amazing thing to happen. So it could be it still will, but it's, yeah.
Yeah, we've been talking to somebody over at Somerset Film to work with young filmmakers,
Oh, that would be great.
because there are quite a few around in Somerset. And they sent us a show reel of what they've made, and there's some pretty good films in there.
Excellent.
Some short, some longer.
Yeah.
They're very good. But yeah, I'm quite interested in finding out more about these young people, because obviously there is a wish for them to have a cinema,
Yeah.
and there is one.
Yes, absolutely.
And we're
Just need a
struck.
bit of-
And at the moment, we used to run it with about 6-7 people. And at the moment, we're just doing it with 2, and we're looking for people to help out. So if we can maybe connect with these young people,
Definitely.
I mean, they can have a film and they can help us out.
There's a perception. There is a perception with young people. I mean, my family, they've grown up. They're in their 20s now. But when they were younger, part of going to the cinema was going to Taunton or part of it was actually getting on a bus by themselves and being free. There's all this perception. Even now, when they're older, we might have some really good pubs and clubs, or not, when I say clubs, I mean community clubs, but actually they want to go to Taunton because it's Saturday night. And I'm talking about people in their 20s. You know, so there is a perception that what's local, because we live here, actually it's rubbish because it's local and it's where we went to school. And it's interesting that until you get older and you get into your more lower middle age, that you actually start to think about your community. I know that's generalising.
Well, it is, but I think there is definitely some truth in it as well. But I think, are you still based at Bay Wharf for the community cinema?
Yeah, but it's a mobile setup, so we can basically set it up anywhere.
But with where that is, that's almost, you know, it's quite an intrepid trek as it is. You know, you've got to go all the way to the bottom of Langport. So I think you could, you know, it is still a night out. It's still like, you know, you've got to get all the way down there. You've got to walk all the way back. You're completely on your own. You've still got that sense of independence. I think that's something that you could run with it there. And I'm happy to help out and have a chat and see if I can
If you want
in any direction.
to get me in touch with anybody, that would be
I
great.
think the local school. Have you been to the
Yeah,
you did the listenings?
John Wren at the secondary school, he was really happy for me to come in and engage with the kids and speak to them. So yeah, I'm sure he'd be happy for you to.
And the other thing, well, they have a really big custom-made kind of, was it a theatre?
Yes,
So
it's
all
like a
set
lecture
up.
theatre, isn't
Yeah.
it? A studio theatre, all
Yeah.
set up.
Yeah, that's it. They have a cinema
Yeah.
sitting there waiting to be used. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah,
Have you ever approached the school before to ask if you could use that facility?
Kind of. We have done a couple of screenings at the primary school,
Right.
but that was just to help them out.
Yeah.
The screenings for children, which was really good, and I loved it.
Just a shame it's sat out there in the evenings, not being used.
There is awful. You learn and you think, oh, negative.
Yeah.
Don't be negative.
Probably quite a lot of
But
red tape.
there's, because it's an academy and it's a sixth form college,
Yeah.
you can't just get a key and go along and open it up and say, right, we're going to do this. There's a huge amount
I'm sure there
involved in that. But you know, with any with the academy, that's all it's supposed to be part of the community, isn't it?
You see that? I held a meeting for the skate park up there, and all it took was a phone call.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
So it is possible, but I think it's perceived red tape almost, isn't it? You think it's going to be difficult.
I would say, I mean, I agree with Caroline. When we used to run Portcullis Players, and we used to have to hire the hall, the cost at that time, before it was an academy, was prohibitive. I mean, we had to raise, before we did anything else, no costumes, no makeup, anything, £400 per night to rent the hall.
Wow.
So, you know,
That's a lot of tickets.
it's a lot of tickets, a lot of tickets. I don't know if that's changed now. I don't know if the academy is cheaper now.
Did you, in your year of community organising, come across projects that never got off the ground that you felt would have if there was more involvement from the community?
The community shop, absolutely, 100%.
Mm.
I don't even live in Brooklyn Road. I don't even live in Hewish Episcopi, and I could see the need for this shop. You know, particularly for the woman that I was listening to, who sort of suggested it in the first place. She has a 4-year-old girl, and the issue that she had was putting electric on her key meter, and if her electric went out at 11 o'clock at night, she couldn't leave her daughter, go all the way down to one stop, which is a good half an hour walk from up this end of town, and back again to get electric, and leave her daughter for an hour completely alone in the house. There's no way.
And you never got hold of the shop owner?
No, we never got hold of the shop opener. South Somerset District Council were really keen, but you know, if you mention the name Harry House in pretty much anywhere in Langport or Hewish Episcopi, you will be met with a wry smile that says you've got no chance.
Oh, he owns it?
Yes, he does. Yeah, and it's you know, it's a little bit of, you know, that's not how things are done, but it is a lot of, he's not interested in having anything be done with it, and it was also a lot of people who were sort of, yeah, we'd love a shop, but we want someone else to come in, we want a spa to open, we want a one-stop to open, we want, you know. But again, it's not necessarily completely dead in the water, because Hewish Episcopi are looking at getting their own community centre. So we've raised it with the parish council that part of the community centre, they could be a community shop, and that might be something that is going to be really useful, and turn a bit of a profit for them, hopefully, eventually, anyway.
You know, you said about this, the signposting that you did at the Angel, and a booklet came out of that.
Yes.
Is that something that is accessible? Is that at the information centre, for example? Or?
It's not yet. The booklet came out and it's sort of flopped a little bit, and now they're going to do a reprint and a restructure of it, so that it is a little bit more accessible to everyone. Because I think when they originally did it, it was for other services to be able to signpost to other services, and then they kind of thought, well, actually, it's the community that needs to have this booklet, not us. So they are doing a reprint, and it's going to hopefully be rolled out. Hopefully before the end of the year, hopefully around the sort of time of the festival. That's the aim.
So does that hold all the organisations, or
no? That is strictly services for mental health, well-being, benefits, job clubs, that sort of idea. But I think within Langport Area Business Group there is a huge potential for a very similar booklet that's literally got a list of all the businesses that are operating in Langport, and a little bit more. And it's happening already, it is happening already. Langport Area Business Group is becoming more involved, there's more things happening, Langport's becoming more of a community-minded town, which is amazing. So I think there is definitely space in the market for a similar sort of publication.
Somerton have one, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
They have one. I don't know, last time I've got one at work, and but I think it's probably a couple of years out of date, because these things do go out of date quite quickly, and it's quite a thick booklet, but it lists everything, apart from the doctors.
Why is
You
that?
know, I have no idea. That's quite interesting. Going back to your community organising, would you have this is a really difficult question, but would you have approached things differently? Would you, if you had it all over again, and said, right, you start on the 1st of June for a year?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, definitely. When I first started, I wasn't community minded. I didn't really care what was going on. I wasn't political particularly. I really wasn't interested. And looking at it now, from the standpoint where I'm standing now, where actually I do care, and I do want Langport to become this amazing place that it can be, I would go into it with a whole different mindset, and it would be a lot more softly, stop trying to rush into massive projects, and take it slow, build the relationships first. But it's, other than that, I think it has worked to an extent. But yeah, I would have a lot more structure, I think, if I went back and did it again.
It probably goes back to only having a year as well, and actually, and then part of that thing, if you haven't been a community organiser before, how would you know where to focus your energy?
Yeah.
And maybe a lot of energy went there when, maybe somebody should have gone over there or whatever. But then that's part of having 1 year again, isn't it?
Well, we have a sort of brief that we're given at the beginning of the year, which is 500 lessons, 10 volunteers, 3 to 5 projects, and something like, how many house meetings a month? Is it 2 house meetings a month? Yeah, which is where we bring people we listen to together and have a huge mass listening, group listening all together. And about sort of 3 months in, you start to panic about your meeting your targets, and then about 9 months in, they sort of tell you, actually, don't panic. The targets aren't as strict as we make them seem to start with. So yeah, when you're starting to sweat that you're not going to pass your year because you haven't got your 500 listens or whatever, they sort of say, it's all right, calm down. This is a training year. It's not about meeting those targets. It's about finding your way as a community organiser and finding out which way is going to work for you. And something I found really interesting when I was researching my essay was that the idea of community organising that we work with is sort of very softly approach. It's building relationships, it's listening to people, but the Citizens UK aspect of community organising, they've been working in community organising for 25 years. They do it as groups coming together to community organise their councils, and they come in and they actually take the power from the council and go off and do whatever they like with it. And it's very, very different. It's a lot more forceful, it's a lot more powerful, it's, you know, but whether it has the same capacity for long-term change, I'm not so convinced.
I think Langport and Hewitt is a very rural area. Somerset's a very rural county, and maybe something like that would work when you have maybe more chimney pots, i.e., more people about. But here it's quite a rural location, really. Even though to the people that live in Langport, it could feel like a big city, really, because there's so much going on. You know.
Comparatively speaking, I think that's something that everybody in my team struggled with. Because we've had 2 people working in Taunton, one in Shepton Mallet, myself in Langport, and one in Puriton, Lavington, and we've all, you know, we're up to an hour away from each other and having to meet up for team meetings every week in Langport. Wonderful for me, not so wonderful for everyone else.
Wow, that's quite a lot.
Yeah, so it has been, you know, and we've sort of fed back over the course of the year. This doesn't work in rural areas. You've got to come up with a new system. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. And it does. The basic idea does, but the idea of the team working that we have to do alongside it, and some of the slightly more revolutionary tactics, they don't work in a rural town. They don't work in a rural village. It's very hard to sort of bang on people's doors and say, right, you've got to change the world, off you go. You know, that doesn't work in a small town.
And you had to rethink, because when you first started, it was, if you're going out door knocking, another community organiser has to know where you are so that you can, and that had to be rethought, didn't it, a little bit? Yeah, it really did, because again, we were working so far away from each other and all working different times of the day, and we had 2 part-timers in our team as well, so it was sort of, they couldn't be buddies for us when they were off, and we had to rethink that, and I think a lot of it came down onto our families and friends, so thank you, families and friends.
What was the worst thing that happened to you in your year?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think the worst thing that happened with me when I was out door knocking was I knocked on one gentleman's door and he opened the door, took one look at me and went, "No." And I sort of said, "Oh, but if I could just explain no." And I was like, "Could I just tell you no?" And I was like, "Fine." I tried 4 times, you know, and I just thought, I think that was my 2nd day I'd ever been outdoor knocking, and to have such a powerful negative thing in my face, I was like, I went home after that, and it was like, I'm not doing door knocking today, I'm going to do paperwork.
That's demotivating though anyway, isn't it? And that, I think the whole having to knock on people's doors and the courage that takes, you know, and you never get used to that, and psyching yourself up to do that, even with like phoning customers up. For me, it's the same. But you know, you got through that year, so it's really good that you've done that. And then what was the best thing that's happened to you?
What was the best thing that's happened to me? The best thing that's happened to me is, I think, is the change in myself and my own motivation to make a difference. I've got grand plans of running for district council and running for this, that and the next thing now, and I really do want to get into it and make a real change, and I think that's definitely been the best thing for me. And I know that's very selfish and self-involved, and it's amazing that I have made a difference to other people as well, but for me it is definitely changing myself.
But I don't think that's selfish, because actually by being a voluntary councillor or district whatever, that is the most unselfish thing to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Getting people out there. You can meet people out and say, well, I want this to be better, I want that to be better. But to actually put yourself in a position where you are the person that physically then has to try and make it better and engage with people, it's very, very hard. So it's actually, I understand where you're coming at from that, but actually I find that it's the opposite in a way.
And the motivation you'll give to other people
Hopefully
for what you've achieved as well.
I'm hoping that if I do run for district council, the fact that I have just spent a year community organising will help me in that, and I'll be able to say, you know, oh, you want to have an organised committee here? I said, well, why don't you organise it? Here's an idea. But I don't think that will go down very well.
Well, there's even smaller. There's district, but also there's Langport and there's Hewish, and there's only one more year to go, and then everybody.
Yes.
So
I'm hoping to have a few more. I've got 2 definites running, 1 possible, so I'm hoping to have a few more people in the mix to get them.
A lot of it is that okay, everybody stands down every 4 years because that's what happens nationally, but actually every 4 years, I know in Langport and Hewish they both have 11 councillors. They've never got 11. So therefore, if everybody stands down and then there's 7 people, and those 7 people go, would you like to be on the council? They co-opt people.
Yeah.
Come on, I'm on the council. Come and be on the council. Come and be on the council.
We can go to the pub after.
What we want actually are elections. We want a proper election where for 11 spaces 20 people stand of all different ages and backgrounds and skills, and actually people can come along and vote and go, I've actually got a choice, because there's no election. If only 7 people stand for 11 places, there's no point in anybody voting, because everybody's got on.
Are you on the council?
I am, yes. And that's how I got on. But I'm elected, even though there wasn't an election, if you get my drift. Even though nobody put a cross.
I have to say,
so that's what we want to do, is to get people to stand.
I have to say, I think there is a trick to getting people to let us stand for Langport Town Council. All you have to do is get them to attend a meeting, and then they come out spitting feathers, so to speak.
It's very interesting. I stood for many, many reasons, but one of the reasons I stood is because I wanted at least 12 people to stand, so there was an election. And we had about 15, 16 people said, I'll do it, I'll do it, I'll do it. Okay, well, I'll do it as well.
Yes.
And actually, when it came to filling in your form and putting it in by the closing date, only 7 people did it. So you can't do that for anybody else.
No.
So the 2 councils there, young people, different. It's and gender as well. It's quite important. Yeah.
What was when you went to the meeting, Alex, the council meeting? You said come out spitting feathers. What? Why? What did you feel was going on in there?
The worst part of it is that you can't speak. That is the absolute worst thing. So they're having these conversations in front of you, and it can be something that actually you know everything about. You know every single last thing there is to know about that subject, and you can't say a word. And that is so frustrating. But as well as that, it's listening to old-fashioned ideas coming from some councillors. It was listening to other councillors be just completely shouted down before they've even opened their mouths. It was, it is the most frustrating thing to sit and watch. You just want to get involved. It really does. It just spark something in you.
Going in for the slaughter.
Similar experiences to Alex, that it erupted into violence and the police reports. Didn't get to stay very long.
There is a point. There is a point, though, Alex. Is that a chair? There is a public session before every council meeting, and that's when the public are there to speak.
Yes.
So that's your opportunity, and you know what's on the agenda. So you might speak about what's on the agenda, or you might have come to the council meeting with a completely different thing. But the chair can invite anybody to speak during the meeting.
Right.
Yes. And I also learned something quite recently from another community organiser, that you can ask for section something, I want to say section 1B to be waived of the town council rules and procedures, which again would mean that you could speak, but only if the chairman agrees to waive section 1B.
I think there's a balance to be had, because if it became a completely full meeting, we would be there till 2 o'clock in the morning, because at the end of the day there's a job to be done. There are certain decisions that need to be made at each meeting, and they need to be made. It's all about engaging with those councillors, engaging with the public beforehand to make sure that they make the right decision at that meeting. I think the other thing is when you are at a council meeting and you're sitting there discussing these very, very important things, that where are the public? Where are they? Because they're not there. So it's actually not only being a councillor, it's actually encouraging people to come along to their council meeting if they want to make a difference.
And it was along those lines, for part of our PG set, we had to do these monthly blogs, and one of the themes for one of the blogs was the conflict, was a conflict theme. And this was at Christmas, so in Langport we had the massive conflict of the bras on the bunting in the town centre. And it was a massive conflict. It made national news, in this silly little backwater town that had put bras on their bunting made national news. And I sort of spoke about that, and I sort of said the people who are complaining about it are not the people who will then come to the town council meeting, say that they didn't like it, and then turn up next year to make something better. And that is something that I found really frustrating, because I was hearing from left, right and centre, oh, it's awful, it looks ridiculous, whose idea was that? But I have personally seen the very hard-working women who sat in the town hall making this white bunting by hand, cutting out these triangles by hand for hours on end, and then putting it up so that Langport would have these wonderful Christmas decorations. And I found it really hard to listen to people who I knew would never get involved to make a difference. And so I think that does make a big difference. I will say that we are also 5 minutes over our 20-minute question and answer time, so does anyone have any more questions?
Would you do it all again?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, in a heartbeat. I really would. Okay, thank you so much for coming. You have no idea how grateful I am. I'll let you all know whether I pass or not.
It was really good, Alex. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you, Stefan, for letting me use the space. Bit of advertising, Studio Langport. Use the space. It's beautiful. This is going on YouTube, so it might work.
Oh, YouTube. Should watch that later.
Absolutely.
Yes, do, I'll share the link around if everyone's happy to have the link shared.
Shall I stop recording?
Yes, you can stop.